Let me make sure I record this session. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm assuming that we're all maybe at different stages at the time app, but we're here to learn. So let me kind of explain what the time app does for you. Several things. It tells your crew where to go. It tells them what to do when they're on site. It tells them how much time they have. And then ultimately, it's going to tell you how much time do I need to pay them for, and did I make any money on this job? So I'm going to show you kind of how we get this all set up. Now, we're not going to get it set up and used today, but I'm going to give a brief demonstration kind of what it looks like so that you guys understand it. So let me share my screen here real quick. All right. Can everybody see my iPad here?
Yes.
Okay. So the time app icon looks like this. So now you know what you want to get on your phone or your iPad, your tablet. And then I'm just going to give a brief demonstration kind of to show you how it works. And then we're going to spend more time on it on Thursday when we meet then. But really what the bulk of today is going to be is showing you how to get it all set up so that you can use it. So a brief demonstration here is, you can see here when you log in that your login is going to be exactly the same credentials that you use to log into G Pro. And then once you log in, this is the screen right here that you're gonna start with. And everything, what you're doing here is creating a timesheet. So when I said earlier, it tells them where to go and what to do, it tracks their time for payroll as well. So we're creating timesheets. So basically the days of writing your time down or doing a punch card or a time clock, something like that, you can totally use this for payroll, but you want to be consistent with it if you're going to do that. All right, so you can see here that I have timesheets. These are all considered timesheets with dates. And if I create a new timesheet, there's my new timesheet right there. And I'm ready to punch in. But we're not going to do that until next time. So I'm just going to kind of show you briefly something that happened today. Now, see, this went back to in progress, even though it shouldn't be. Oh, I know what it did. It's this one. Okay. This is the one I did earlier to kind of show you guys. So this is a completed timesheet for today. And you can see here that we start the day with load, unload, and travel, which means the team lead is getting to the shop and they're loading the truck. We're doing the huddle, and then they stay in load, unload, travel until they get to the first job. So I can see here that I started at 7:59. That's when they punched in, and that they ended this task of traveling and loading their truck at 8:36. Okay, so that's 37 minutes. That's quite a bit of time. And you can see it's in red up here, even though we don't track this time a whole lot. But so now we arrived at Charlie Brown's house here. And so I can see here at Charlie Brown's house that this green line is a good thing. It's not red, because we actually had an hour to do this work, but it only took us 0.78 of an hour. So we know we did well here. And then I can see the back gate code. This is a note that you can write in on the estimate for crew notes that will show the guys what the gate code is. Be sure to lock the gate before leaving. If the dog is loose, do not mow, cut the grass at 3 inches. So there's all kinds of information that you can give the team on this time app. Other things are I could leave a file. If I had one, that file could be a picture. It could be a drawing. If I had photos that I wanted the team to see, maybe I went out there and took pictures of something that I wanted them to do. And then here is the service. You can barely see it because it's completed, but mow, trim, blow, and you can see it's checked off. That got completed today. And then if there's any notes here. And then when they left Charlie Brown's house, they traveled again. Then they got to Cody's house. And I can see I went over on the time on Cody's house. We had 2 hours, but we took 4.72 hours. And then our last was at 2:46 to 3:15, right here to right here. We went back to the shop and we did our equipment maintenance. So this is kind of how that works from this perspective. Now on our next meeting, we're going to see a whole lot more of that. So let me switch screens on you here just a little bit. I'm going to share again, but a different screen. Okay. Okay, here, can everyone see the home dashboard here? Yes, okay, I see Anthony shaking his head. Okay, so when you log into GG Pros, you know, you come up here to estimating and then go over to time as well. So in order to use the time app, you're going to export an estimate over to time. And you're going to schedule it. And once you schedule it, then the crew can see it and use it in the time app. I just showed you here is the time card that we just reviewed. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, my internet said it was unstable, so just making sure. So here, when you enter into time, time always defaults to the time sheets and this time list first. So I can see here that this timesheet got submitted, and I can see exactly what we just saw on that app. Only I'm going to get to see it as the owner, as in a little bit more detail. So I can see we started out here, and here's the time. I can look at task info. So if there's any notes, there are some notes. Traffic backed up on freeway, 18-wheeler overturned. So you heard me say earlier that 37 minutes is a lot of time to be traveling. So I can see that. And then I've got Charlie Brown, and then I traveled, and Cody, so we only did 2 jobs today. Now, the more important thing is really the daily review. So if I come over here to daily review on June 8th, and I can see myself here as the foreman, and it's in red. Now, usually it's in green, but when it's in red, what that means is there's an urgent picture. So I know that I need to look at that today. Extremely important. So right here, I can see all the details. I can see where I went. I can see the times, what services got performed, and then the crew notes. So here's that traffic backed up. Okay, that's why they spent so much time. Now I understand. And then here it says, please see pictures, but there are no pictures. Should put that down here, sorry. And then here, broke sprinkler head in backyard. Told customer we would replace within 2 days. As the owner, and you as the owner, as your teams get bigger and bigger and your business gets bigger and bigger, you're not going to be able to be on every job every day. So you're going to have to rely on your teams to tell you things that happen on the job so that you don't disappoint the customer. So you can see right here on the notes, it just says okay. Now, sometimes it is just going to be okay. In fact, I bet maybe 80% of the time when it gets to notes, and it's mandatory that they leave the notes, that's how you're going to set it up, they're just going to say okay. But occasionally something will happen, and before they leave that job, it jogs their memory that, got to put something down here. Now that's important because when they get in at the end of the day, you may or may not be there. You could be on the phone with the customer. You could be on a job site with the customer. You may have left already for the day. And they go home and it slips their mind. But right as they're leaving the job, they're more apt to remember that. And that's why that it makes them leave a note, either okay or tell me what's going on. So I wasn't even on this job, and I know within 2 days I have to replace a sprinkler head broke here. And I also know that the edger broke down. And then here they completed their 5S process when they got back in for the day. So once this time card, once I've approved these, then I can approve the whole time card. If it needs to be changed, and sometimes it will need to be changed. So for instance, here we've got 2:46 to 3:15. So that's not bad for them traveling back to the shop and then doing their 5S's. But maybe at night, the team lead texts me and he says, hey, remember when I was leaving, you told me to go back and wash the truck? Well, I really spent an extra 15 minutes doing that and I'd already clocked out. So I really left at 3:30. Well, I can edit this right here. To change the status real quick. Now, what I've done is I've put that back in a pending mode where I can go back and edit it. So I can come back in here and I can edit 3:15 and make it 3:30. Okay, then I'm going to submit it again. And I can see here they've got 7 total hours. And now I can approve this timesheet. So I can click this and say this is good, change the status, and it's approved. Now they can see on their timesheets on their time card when they clock in the next morning that you've approved that time card. Now I highly recommend that you do this on a daily basis. Some people want to wait till the day they have to turn in payroll or the day before. And what happens then is you go through it, you're going to spot something that you're going to say, this is not right. It can't be right. They made a mistake here. So you call the team lead and they're going, I don't know, boss, that was 4 days ago. I just don't remember. And so it's a good thing to do these every night. Plus there could be notes that you need to know in there. So good habit to get in. Now that you kind of have an overview of how this works, there's some setup work that you have to do in order to make it work properly. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to settings. Come on. There we go. All right, and we're going to come down here to time. And on timesheets, we've got timesheet settings. And I'm going to walk through these with you. And I believe this is going to be part of your homework, is to come set up these settings. And they're really kind of common sense, especially if I explain them to you. So they should be pretty easy for you to remember. If not, you guys can always reach out to me. And this is being recorded as well, so you'll be able to watch it back. But when creating short names for job, use the job's job address. Now you could call it the project name or the customer name, but if you do that, it doesn't give them the address. And on recurring jobs, your mowing jobs, guys are going to memorize where these things are, but you're going to have those extra jobs too, project jobs, landscape installations, where it's the first time they've been there. So the best thing that you can put on that schedule is the address. Now here, show job IDs to crews when choosing jobs. I would put no there. Now those job IDs are important to us as the owner, but they're not important to the crew. They could care less. Use GPS to suggest jobs for foremen. It's not that they can't use the GPS to find the way there, and I'll show you that next week, but really what this setting is for, it's more geared towards those businesses that can stop somebody en route to go to another job, like maybe a plumber. So we're not typically going to do that. We're going to stay on the schedule. We're not typically diverting our guys from one place to another. So I would say no there. Doesn't hurt if you say yes, though. It's not going to hurt anything. By default, and all these are defaults, they can be changed at any time. By default, track hours on jobs by work areas and services. So that's one that you might want to write down. We don't want to track it by cost codes. We're going to track it by work areas and services. Ensure every job task is assigned an accounting cost code. Yes. You do want a cost code on every job. Now, if you haven't learned what cost codes are yet, if you've been through business training, you'll learn that. If you haven't, a cost code is an accounting bucket that we put things in. So we have to know which bucket every job's going in. All right, allow foremen to punch out at times in the future. No, there's no reason why anybody should punch out in the future. If they tried to do that, something would be wrong, so would never allow that. Import crew notes from estimates? Yes. So when you're doing an estimate, you've probably noticed that there's a place for crew notes. And as you're thinking about that job during the estimate, maybe things that the customers told you or things that you want to personally remind the crew of, you can type those in there. And then when you export the job over into time, it will come over and it'll show up on their app. Now, the cool thing about it is that if you forget to do that, there is a place on the time side where you're scheduling the job that you can add those notes there. So just because you didn't do it on the estimate doesn't mean that you can't go back at any point in time and add notes. Allow foremen to leave timesheets notes blank? No, require notes. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is that maybe 80% of the time, they're not really going to have a note. They're going to service the lawn, everything's good, and they're going to put okay. But you want to be able to jog their memory by making them have to at least put okay. So that if something did happen, they can go, oh yeah, I need to tell him this. Allow foremen to update the status of scheduled visits via timesheets. Yes. So what happens when they update that is that they're clicking that, yes, this is done. And then on the recurring work only, that will place a check mark on the calendar so that you know that's been completed. Now, it doesn't do that on one-time jobs that are standard estimates. I've heard a lot of owners say, hey, I wish it would do that. And I agree, I wish it would do that too. But LMN's explanation for that is it's a one-time job. The reason for the check mark is to make sure that you got all of the recurring jobs completed. So allow foremen to delete timesheets. This one, I would say no. It's not going to hurt if you put yes, but I think the best practice here is to put no. Let them mess up and you correct it at night. It's probably going to take about 2 weeks if you truly enforce it and talk to them about it and go over it with them. And don't beat up on them for the first 2 weeks. But after that, they're pretty much going to get it, and the mistakes should be few and far between. But sometimes something can be wrong if they're deleting timesheets a lot. It's like, what's going on here? All right, work schedule, average working hours per day per employee. That's up to you to put. Some people work 5/8. Some people work 4/10. So it's up to you what you want to put here. Now, default lunchtime, again, this is just a default. So what is going to happen when they submit their timesheet, and you'll see this next time as we go through it, is it's going to calculate all the time. And for instance, mine was 6.86 hours, I believe, for today on that one that I showed you guys. And then at the end, it'll say, what time did you take lunch? And the default's going to say 12:30 because that's how I set it up. And it's also going to say 30 minutes. But it allows them to override that. And that's a good thing. You want them to take lunch when it's the most efficient time to take lunch. Some days that may be 11 o'clock. Some days it may be 12:30, 12:15, wherever it makes sense. And then typically the duration is 30 minutes, but it could be shorter or longer. And then it subtracts whatever they put here from their time so that they're not paid for that time. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit more. All right, raise a payroll alert when a foreman's daily hours exceed. And so this may be the same as this, or it may be a little more. You may know that there's days that they're going to work earlier, especially if your team leader foreman is the only one who's staying maybe to do the equipment maintenance at the end of the day. Then down here, you set your time zone. And then of course you want to use miles unless you're located in Canada. All right, so this is one that you definitely want for your homework: settings, timesheet settings. Any questions or comments about this sheet? No? We're all good there? Okay, then we're going to go to payroll codes. Now, your payroll codes may be there for you already. I'm not 100% sure of that. But if not, you're going to add new, and you're going to have field wages, and one is going to be OT, regular, and salary. And that's kind of easy to remember because most places we work, we get either hourly or salary. And then if we're hourly, we also may get OT if we go over. So if I click on one of those and look at it, this is where you're just going to type that in and click payroll code is active and save it. So if it's not there, that's what you're going to do. Okay, questions here? No? Okay. All right, payroll and overtime. Now this one you really want to pay attention to. Do you pay overtime?
Yes.
Now, I cannot 100% say that I know every state demands you pay overtime, but I bet it does. But my point here is that you want to definitely look up with your labor board of your state, what are the overtime rules for your state?
Does this include salary workers?
Depends on the state. And that's why I'm saying you want to look that up and understand it completely. In Texas, it does not include salary. I mean, it does not include, it's just hourly. Same thing for Florida, I believe. But there are other states that may be different. And that's your next question right there. Are salaried workers paid overtime? And I'm in Texas, so that's why I put no. Do you pay daily overtime? So in some states, it's after 8 hours. In some states, it's after 40 hours. I believe California is one of those that I think is 8 hours. Do you pay daily double time? So there may be states that do that. Weekly overtime? Yes, in Texas. Do you pay seventh day overtime? No. Do you pay seventh day double time? So there may be states where you're not over 40 hours, but if you've worked 7 days in a row, they're going to pay you either overtime or double time for those hours. All right, and then this comes from the payroll codes that you just did. And so you would select those. Hourly would be regular, overtime would be overtime, and salary would be salary. All right, now these right here, you don't have to worry about these right now. You can use these later. If you use QuickBooks to do your payroll, then you can connect this with QuickBooks, and when you've approved those hours, they go to QuickBooks and you can do your payroll right there. But for now, I would put NA on both of these. All right, any other questions on this one? So that's part of your homework too, is to make sure that you know what your labor laws are for your state. Okay. All right, equipment you don't have to worry about. All this is that you can add equipment here and have the guys track that too. I don't see any sense in that right now. That could come into play at some point as you get bigger, but I wouldn't worry about that now. All right, and the other thing,
tabs, you know,
I'm sorry?
what is under those tabs if you open that TK2 up?
Nothing. That just means truck 1
Okay.
is
I
active.
didn't know what was actually in that. I haven't messed around with it at all.
Yeah, just truck 1, 2, and 3, and maintenance 1, however people want to do it. All right, then the other one is you're going to come to jobs. And let's look at job types. Now this is set here for you already. I just want you to be aware of it and not to mess with it. There's two things here today I'm going to ask you not to mess with. One is job types and services. So we really only have 3 job types. We're either servicing someone on an ongoing basis, we're doing a one-time install for them, or we're doing snow work. And then we also track unbillable time, which is billable time is the time that a customer's not paying you for, but I have to pay the employee for. And that's when they get the truck ready in the morning. Anytime I'm doing any kind of formalized training, I'm doing the huddle in the morning. They're doing equipment maintenance at the end of the day, those kind of hours. And we do track that. That is a job type because there are benchmarks for that. And that's where we can help you as business coaches if your billable, or I'm sorry, your unbillable time is too high. So just don't mess with these. Don't add any to that. All right, default tasks. So let me help you explain, let me see if I can explain default tasks here. It may not be something that you need in the very beginning, but I'm going to ask you to set up one if there's not any there for you already. And I don't believe there is. But when your guys go into the app, it's going to tell them what the task is that they should do. And there may be several tasks there. But let's say that they're on a job and the customer comes out and says, hey, Anthony, I know that I don't have it in my contract for you to prune the shrubs, but could you just do that? I'll pay extra. Could you just do that time? And so Anthony says, sure. And he gets on the phone and he calls his boss, and the boss says, yeah, go ahead and do it. Well, he's got to find some place to track that time. It's not a job type already in the app. So this is a way to include it on every single job. So when you export the job over, you're not just exporting those tasks that they're going to do. It's also going to create this. So if the customer requested additional work, or if the neighbor, same scenario, you're at somebody's house, the neighbor comes out and says, hey, I know I don't have a contract with y'all, but I just need you to cut it one time. Well, where am I going to code that time to show it? And so you could go back in and you could click that I did it right here. So the one I'm going to ask you to do is just a basic under default tasks is customer requested extra work. And I want you to do the service one. This one right here. So you would put customer requested extra work, it's service versus these other 3 that you see. And then this is the cost code for 400.2. And I would put track hours and rates for billing by the hour. So what happens here when you do that is it tracks it, and it's also going to create an invoice for that customer because you clocked in and out of this. Okay, questions about that? Okay, let's see. Materials. All right, there's probably some sample materials in there for you. The rates are probably not going to fit any of you. You'll have to get the rates. But as you start to use materials, you're going to come up here and add new, and you're going to enter the material name and then the invoice type. So you may have a billable and an unbillable for that. Now, unbillable would mean that it's a fixed price, meaning I've already put it in the estimate and it's not going to be extra. And so not billable would mean that. I've already given them a price for it. So I want to track it, but I don't want to charge them extra for it. And then you can enter an invoice description here as well. So let me choose one here. So this 2-inch maple tree. Okay, so I've got the 2-inch maple tree. It's active. The invoice type is per unit, which means I am going to charge them for it. And I'm going to charge 125. I'm going to track the quantity. It's taxable in my state. It may not be in yours. So that's one thing you want to also check is, are services and are materials taxable in my state? Then do I want to show the date on the invoice? Most of the time, the answer to this is yes. You want the customer to know when you did the work. And because this is per unit, I want to flag it for review just to ensure that I get an opportunity to look at the invoice before it goes out. Now, if I had put this on a fixed price, I probably wouldn't want to do that. It's already included in the invoice. I just want to track it so that I know how many got used. Okay, questions about materials?
Materials here in the jobs tab versus the price list, do they not carry over to each other?
They don't. Good observation, Mike. They don't. And I sure wish they did. They do not carry over.
So what's the benefit of having two lists?
Just to be able to track it.
Okay.
You're probably going to
job.
have it. Yeah, per job. You're probably going to be able to, you're going to have the same list over in price list that you are here. And yeah, I agree with you. It'd be great if that carried over. But yeah, just to track it per job, you're absolutely
Okay. So you basically have to do a double entry for that for materials and price list.
Yeah, you do. Okay. All right, services. Now services, this is the second one I don't want you to touch. Everything that you need is going to be right here. And you're familiar with this list if you're already playing with estimates on the estimate side, because when you go to do an estimate, it's asking you to choose, and you're probably choosing, let's see, you're probably choosing one of these right here. And it says included. Now it could be billed per visit, and sometimes that it is, you choose this as well. Included means that it's a level monthly billing. Bill per service is they're only going to pay each time I do the service. Now, every once in a while, when you go to do an estimate, not going to happen often, to some of you it may never happen, you're going to say, the service I need is not in here. I need to add that. Well, it's right here. And if you're in your first year, I would say, call your FBC first and just say, hey, I need to add a service. I just want to run it by you. Because there may be something there that applies to that you're just not familiar with. And that as you really learn the industry and understand it, you're going to know by looking at this list whether it's in there or not. So now you can see that this list is alphabetized, but it doesn't automatically alphabetize. If you add a new one, it's always going to go back to number one. So you may have to take number one and say, okay, that's a P. It needs to be number 64. So you would just take the one, make it number 64, and it'll automatically move it and put it in order. And I highly recommend that if you ever do it, you do that. Because as you choose them on the estimate, if they're all messed up, it takes forever to find them. So just a time hint there. All right, any questions about services? Our other don't touch list. Okay, hourly rates. This is something that I would come and put in, and I would probably put in customer requested extra work. That'd be my first one on an hourly rate. And you're probably saying, okay, well, where do I get this dollar amount? Once your budget is in GG Pro, and you can go open an estimate and put in a profit of your typical profit. Let's say it's maintenance and you're going to put in 15%. It'll give you the hourly rate. And you can use that hourly rate right here. So that way, if they're on the job and the customer Hey, I'm going to bring the shrubs for them. And as I told you earlier, it's going to automatically create the invoice when they clock in and out. It'll do it at $47. Now, understand that's a default. So when I look at that invoice, if I want to change it, I certainly can. Okay. Any questions about these? All right. So that's the first thing you need to set up. Now there's one more thing, and that's going to be in time. And right over here, you're going to see staff and staff list. So here's a list of our corporate staff and then some. And your staff right now is just going to include you. So as you get an employee, what you're going to do is come up here and click new. So let's say that we have a new team lead. And the team lead, by the way, is the one that's going to operate the timeout, not the team members. So the team lead is in charge of the team member's time. Although it's always good, as the team member learns it, to have somebody who may be his right-hand man on the truck. Sometimes if it's a two-man crew, he's only got one guy, right? But if it's a three-man crew, it might be somebody else that he says, hey, let me teach you to kind of use this thing. So if I'm on vacation or I have to call in sick, or as Rob knows, people no-show occasionally, they know how to run the time app as well. So I come up here and I'm going to put in new, and I'm going to select the type of employee it is. So a regular employee would be a team member. A foreman would be a team lead. Now their login account is always going to be new. Now existing login is going to be you if you're putting yourself in, because you already have a login on the estimating side. And so you can use it here. But for a foreman, they're not going to have a login on the estimating side. So we'll choose new login and then email. I'm just going to make something up here and hope it takes it. Now, if you put the employee's email in, and you should, let them know that they're going to get an email from LMN. And they can open it if they want to, but to disregard it. Because LMN doesn't understand our foreman from the foreman of all their other users in the United States and Canada. So they're going to send them that email telling them how to get in the system, and they're not going to be able to get in. So just tell them to listen to the information that you give them. So then we've got to choose a username and password for each one of them. Now, understand that we don't necessarily have information here that needs to be protected. There's no dollar amounts or anything like that. There are job hours, but it's not that big a deal. So you want something that they're going to remember and that you're going to remember. Because you can't just come back in here and look at this, you have to reset it. And so if Anthony calls in sick and Brandon's going to run the crew, I need to be able to tell Brandon exactly what the user ID and password is. So we're going to make them the same thing so they only have to remember one thing. And it's going to be something easy. You can create your own easy thing if you want to, but I'm going to say that it's going to be Brandon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I do that, what did I just do? Sorry, guys. Okay. Brandon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to come down here to the password and do the same thing. Hope I did them right. Both the same. Oh, I did. Okay. Okay, they don't have to have an employee ID. I can skip payroll warnings if I want to. I don't have to, but I'm not going to fill this out. He's not a subcontractor and he's not salaried. Now, that could change after you look at the labor laws in your state. You could be able to pay a team lead salary. I doubt it. I don't know of a state that does, but I don't know every state's labor laws either. But most states, they're not salaried. And that's because they do physical work. And so that keeps an employer from abusing them and working them to death and not paying them for it. And then I'm going to say next here. And then I can put them on a group. So we'll say Brandon's on maintenance 1. And then I say, okay. Now when I do that, the screen's going to change. Never seen that happen. Must be new. The screen changes. I see this same information here, but now it says he's active. Here's the user information. He's a part of this group. And right here, as Brandon creates timesheets and they get approved, they're going to be listed right here. Every timesheet that Brandon's a part of. And so if the labor board were ever to come audit you, here would be your timesheets. You can also, right over here to the left, you see this reports icon. You can print a lot of reports around payroll. But here's every timesheet that you need. Now, I don't recommend using the hide jobs and hide staff, but basically what I can do is if I don't want Brandon to see certain jobs in the app, I can click those jobs off where he can't see them. Same thing. If I don't ever want Anthony to be on Brandon's crew, then I can check off Anthony so that Brandon can never choose Anthony to be on his crew. Again, I don't see reason for that. I guess it could happen, but I just don't see a reason for it. So I'd leave those alone. And then you just save. And so Brandon should be here right there and as a foreman. Now, if you do a team member, it's a whole lot easier because you just put the basic information in. You don't have to put the user ID and all that kind of stuff because they're not the ones clocking in. So if Brandon's sick one day, then I'm just going to tell Anthony the user ID and password is Brandon12345. The next guy I hire as a team lead is going to be Jose12345. So everybody's going to be their first name 12345 or whatever you dream up that you know you'll always remember. Make sense? Okay. And then your staff groups are here and you can add as many staff groups as you want. But right now, I would just start with either maintenance 1 or mowing maintenance crew 1. There may be some stuff in there for you that's basic mow team 1. And then as you add teams to your business, then you'll add like a holiday lighting crew or a horticulture crew, something like that. So I want you to go ahead and part of your homework too is to get your staff set up so that you're there. And then the last part of your homework, if I didn't say it before, is to get the app on your phone or your device. And then on Thursday, we're going to go through it in a little bit more depth, and we'll spend more time actually on the time app and the time cards. All right, did this make sense to everybody?
A little bit. I know this might be an advanced question, but on the staffing, is there a way that we can split pay? So if we schedule a staff member to go out to be on the mow team, and that's their typical job, but now we have the irrigation side of the business that needs some help, and is there a way to do that in LMN?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. And it's very easy. So if I'm on a job and let's say, Mike, you go pick me up at noon and say, okay, you're done with this crew because these 2 guys can handle it. I need you to come over here and dig some trenches for the irrigation tech. So that team lead that I was on for the morning is going to clock me out. And then when you get me over to the irrigation guy, he's going to clock me in. And so that's how my time gets split. And it shows me on the irrigation jobs now instead of the mowing jobs.
Okay.
Same thing would happen if, and Rob, I'm sure you've had this happen before. You're on a job site and all of a sudden the guy goes to the team lead and says, hey, my wife's going to pick me up. I'm sick. Okay, I'm going to clock this guy off, clock him out. Or he just disappears. You know, doesn't happen often, but it happens occasionally. Turn around and the guy's gone. Not trying to scare anybody, but it happens. So, all right.
That guy go to the bathroom and text me when he comes back.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Happens occasionally. It's not the norm, but it will happen at some point in your career. You'll get that call and say, the guy's just gone. So what we do, not for everybody. So, all right. So do you have the overall picture of how this works and why we're doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Do you, Rob?
I'm sorry.
Do you?
What?
Do you have the overall picture of how this works and why we're okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good deal. And we'll play with it a whole lot more. We'll be more nuts and bolts on Thursday. Okay.
It's LMN time is the same login as LMN regular, right?
Yes. Yes. And the app, anything in
I have it
LMN.
on my phone. I've just never used it.
Gotcha. Okay. The other thing that I meant to just reinforce to you guys, if you don't know it already, let me share my screen one more time, is when you're over on the estimating side, down here, there's a get help and a help desk. Now, this doesn't go to a live person, but they've made a lot of articles and videos. And so I can just come here and put in anything I want to.
So I'll click there and go to read it, and I'll be like,
And then over
Couple
here,
I don't understand.
Rob, can you mute?
Oh,
Thanks. Thanks. So over here, I can look and see the topic I'm looking for. And click on it. And then on the right-hand side, it's either going to give me written directions or it's going to give me a video on how it works. And guys, I've been using Pro since, let's see, 18, 19, 20, 4 years now. And I still use that help thing. There's things I forget or things I didn't know that I go there just to check out. And then if I still am not clear, I'll call somebody, but use it as much as you can. So.
There's an LMN and then the LMN Time app. One's a CRM, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Just the plain LMN is a CRM app.
And the Time, I've downloaded, deleted, and downloaded several times, and this is all I get off of it.
Yeah.
Just a blank screen.
Oh, I was going to say, all I see is a blank screen. That's what you get?
That's all I get on LMN Time. I don't know if it's because I don't have Time set up in my GG Pro.
I wouldn't think so. I would think that anybody could download the app just because it's free, even if you didn't have LMN, you just couldn't log in. Oh, that's a good question. Let me talk to Kenny about that and see if he has any ideas about why you just have a blank screen. Anybody else tried to load it on their device and been okay? Or had any issues?
Real quick, Mike, are you using an Apple or an Android device?
Apple.
Apple. Okay. I'm not sure about Apple, but if there's a way to go in there and clear the device's data cache for that application and try launching it again to see if maybe it's stuck trying to load a previous login attempt that failed or something, that could probably clear it up for you.
Okay. I'm sure that's somewhere in settings.
Yes.
Also, I don't know if this has anything to do with it. Help me out here, Anthony. Make sure that your software is up to date, that you have the latest.
That'll definitely be a big thing as well. You want to make sure your iOS is up to date as well.
Yeah. Probably if you've got one that's out of date, it's not a big deal. But if it's sitting there on 3 and 4, I'd sure update.
Okie doke. I will check through that.
Okay. Okay, guys. If y'all don't have anything else, then I will let you go for the day, and I'll see you back here on Thursday.
Thank you, Danielle.
You
Good
bet.
night, everyone.
Thank you. All right. It's good seeing y'all. Bye-bye.